Hi, welcome to the second edition of the Open World Gamedev newsletter. And today I'd like to review two books, but since I only did like a text review of two books last time, I'm gonna review four books this time. So I'm gonna start with those. So first is this one, which I kickstarted a few years ago, I think. It's called City Builder, a guide to designing communities. And this one I really like. Well, I really like most of my books, but I've read through most of it, which is kind of uncommon, but you know, what it is basically is, you know, it answers the question like, okay, what sort of institutions could you find, or what sort of locations, like shops or you know, different places in medieval villages or towns. I think it also goes through a little bit like what's the difference between really small you know, villages and up to towns, and how do they differ, and like so so here's one, for example. Actually, let me take one that's easier to pronounce. Here's one. The Jewelry Workshop. So let's see. So it'll describe basically how it works, what they do, what you might find there, and also it has, for all of them, it has like a couple of adventure hooks that you could potentially that could happen when you enter that sort of place, which I thought is pretty. I think it's pretty cool. I think it also goes through the monetary systems that were used in that age, and it's not just medieval stuff. It's like medieval from like a fantasy point of view. So you'll have like a bit of magic and potion producing stuff strewn in here as well. So it's a great resource. Obviously not just useful for tabletop role-playing games, which is I guess what it's made for, but also for like just general world building and design. The next one that I didn't do a video last time was this one, Filling in the Blanks, a guide to populating hexes by Todd Lieback. This is a book that's aimed for making hex crawls, basically. So you can see that there's like a hex map, and the way that you use this is you design the way that, well, what you do with it is you produce maps which contain of large hexes like this, with the smaller hexes inside it. And for each of those, first you roll how many of these should have something interesting in them. So you roll 2 dice, and then once you have that, you roll on a new table that says what kind of thing it is. So geologic, for example, or structure, resource, hazard. And then once you roll that, you go to like a different page. So if it's a river, you roll how long it is, how deep it is, how streamy it is, or whatever. Different things that'll help you sort of shape your world a little bit. I really like this. It feels like a great book to get started on just populating the book and thinking about different rules for procedurally placing things. Also just lots of content that you can draw inspiration from. Third book is this one, which all of these I've kickstarted. There's that. This is Folklore Bestiary. So this is like a monster book, but it's quite unique, I think, or you know, in a sense at least. So basically, what it is, it's based on actual folklore from Earth, you know, from our own reality, but it's been like inspired by it and twisted in various ways, and taken from all over the world. So here is the cephalophore, which is it's from Western Europe, it says here. So it'll say sort of which country or which area of the world it's coming from. And it has like one page of information, one nice art piece, and then usually one or two pieces of, you know, information about what, you know, the actual rules for the monster. I really like this one. It's a giant slug, like a giant slug, and you can get sucked into its mouth, and what happens then is they actually have like a dungeon inside it, but I'm not going to show you that to spoil it. But that's like, it's pretty cool, I think. And then final book for this week, this issue, is the Adventurer's Almanac, which is also a very cool book. So this is it basically tries to sort of answer the question, like, okay, in like a fantasy setting, what could be like the different months, and what happens during different months, and what do they represent, and what sort of events could you stumble upon, maybe, as you, like, if you enter a city and it's you know, a winter month, what sort of events might there be then, and lots of fun tables, lots of just, you know, text talking about the month and what happens during that month. So here's like a calendar for that month, so we'll say, you know, different things that you can expect, like where the moons possibly. So just things to get you inspired about, not just how things are different, maybe based on like the place or the type of place or the location, or the faction that it's inside, or country, but actually the time of the year that you find it in, which is really interesting and really well made, I think. So that was all I wanted to say for this time. I hope you enjoyed the newsletter and my small review of books. Thank you.